All right, this is, let me say welcome back to Deep Speak with Bro.Sadiq. Today we are on location. We are at the home of Brother Abba Ras Anebana Tafari, and we are in his meditation room. So being as we don't have deluxe camera equipment, we are on the camera that we are on, and I'll be sitting back so you can get a clear picture of both of us. And today we'll be bringing an interview. As I mentioned that, I would eventually interview every one of the gentlemen who are involved in the MBL program. And so today is that day, and this is the first of those interviews, and there'll be more to come. So with no further ado, let me sit back and get relaxed, get comfortable, and we're going to get into this conversation with Brother Abba Ras Anebana Tafari.
And don't forget, share, like, and subscribe.
Yeah, please do. Please do. So, blessings, brother.
Love.
Blessings, love, no doubt. Peace and prosperity to the people. Today, like I said, we're interviewing Brother Abba Ras Anebana. He is a member of the My Brother's Library Foundational Members Group. And so today we are going to be coming to him in his home, and we're going to be doing an intimate interview so that you can get to know him personally. If you followed my channel, you have a personal, inside, introspective view of my own self. And so that is the goal for the members of this program. And so I'm going to let the brother introduce himself and give you his own insights on himself, as I feel like that is what's best.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah, Ras Tafari, Emmanuel, Selassie, indwelling creator who live and reign in the hearts of all flesh and entity. I am, as my brethren said, Abba Ras Anebana Tafari. I am the treasurer of MBL, My Brother's Library. When I met, I think I'll start there. We met. How we met?
I guess, that's a good start. Where we should start.
I was trying to think
how
of starting
did we
points.
meet? Yeah, how did we meet? Right? How did we meet? How did you come to? How did you come to get involved with My Brother's Library? And well, that's a good place to start.
Well, our first actual meeting, there was meetings before that you didn't know about. Several times, as I was going through different movements, motions, and travels around in and around Bloomington, when you move forward here, gang, I would intersect with your presence. Usually you were flyering for My Brother's Library. I think one day I even got a flyer from you.
Okay.
You may or may not remember that, but I think I even stopped the car and was like, "Oh, word. Okay. Yeah, hand me one of them, bro."
Okay.
And I got a flyer from you, and I've seen you several times before I actually walked up to you.
Right.
And these things are significant, Ty, because I'm one who lives, I and I are ones who live knowing that there aren't accidental anythings that occur. So if I run across a certain soul, or I should say the Creator puts me in the path with certain souls on a consistent basis, then I pay attention to those things even more so than I pay attention to all meetings, because as I said, they're actually part of a greater movement, and knowing that it's not happening accidentally, then I make sure to be present.
Right.
So along with that is also, of course, living in tune with one's inner guidance, inner voice, higher self, however one's understand that is great, as long as you understand that for one's and oneself. But everybody has a guiding principle, what we'll call that, within themselves. And if we listen, it will guide us along our path and our way and into our blessings and lessons as well.
I agree. Intuitive voice.
Exactly, yes. It's not always, of course, a voice in particular, as most people would perhaps think. Often it's just, a feeling and intimation or inspiration to do this. And I've learned to read those kind of feelings though over time as communication rather than just, oh, I'm thinking this, me. I'm thinking if I'm no. There's a whole bunch of thoughts we as human beings, we as people living in the human experience, pardon me, because we're more than that as beings. We have many myriad thoughts that we think are our own because of our idea of ourself being an ego body. But the reality is that many of the thoughts, especially the ones that are most inspirational that you, how I want to say, quote unquote, I don't know where that hit me out of the blue, as it were. Blue is a symbol of a spiritual thing or energy. When we see blue in somebody's aura around their head, we know they're going through something spiritual at that time. So these are clues and intimations about meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So when I ran into you, I got a nudge. We'll go in there.
Yeah, I got you.
I got one of those particular nudges, and again, I move with those. And so I said, hey, I'm over here. You know, hey, how you doing, brother? Of course, don't want to seem utterly odd walk up to somebody. And I said, hey, Jotko told me to come over here and talk to you for a minute. Mm-hmm. And from that point forward, we just start, reasoning and building about different things along the path specifically, and just the walk and the understanding or understanding of what is this thing people be calling God.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's because for ones that are in this consciousness, because when I say Rastafari is a deeper thing than most people want to put us in a religious box. I'm this, I'm that. You're Rasta, so you must be this. No. It is an experiential thing where I'm not just going to believe. As the scripture says, I test the waters. Mm-hmm. I don't just say, oh, maybe, I don't know if that's water. It might be good, it might not be good. I might, so I go and check out the water. And then if generally, I'm not even going to check that water out. Mind you, if I get guidance that, nah, I'm going to listen to that. Mm-hmm. But if I go and get guidance to check out some waters, then I go and check them out and see what I have to, generally do or get to, I should say, do or offer or gain.
Right. How I'm related.
How I'm going to interact in that situation. Generally, I just, let the Creator guide again on, okay, this is what, I don't know what I'm going to say when I walk up to this. When I talk to many people, they be thinking, oh, wow, this guy, I had these questions and he started answering it. It's like some type of thing where they think perhaps a person is reading their mind or something like that. But the reality is that we're all connected and the Creator is connected within us. So Jah knows, like it says in myriad scriptures, not just the Christian scripture, mm-hmm. that Jah knows before you pray or ask what your question is and what your prayer is. So ones that are in a field of energy or consciousness to receive from source in such a manner and are willing to serve are often taken up, and even sometimes those that aren't conscious of it are taken up to do the will of the Most High. Birds, animals, people. So it's not limited even to just human beings.
Agreed.
Delivering a message or communication or a lesson.
Fully agree. I have another question. In relation to my brother's library and the intention of this program that we're trying to bring to the youth. And, the idea behind my brother's library, once again, I'm going to state that, is our ultimate intention is to help our youth reach their full potential, okay? Find their natural aptitudes, find their natural gifts, and help to nurture those until they bloom into their fullest selves. And so what I wanted to ask you was in relation to that idea, that ultimate core idea. How did that spark something in you? What did it spark in you? What did it initiate to make you say that's something you could agree with or you believed in?
Well, for I and I is again an internal guidance thing, and mind you, I of course have my own, so to speak, vision and feeling about, okay, I'm here to do stuff spiritually. There are some things I am here to help accomplish, shifts in creation as well as individual souls that I know that I'm here to touch. There's just no other way to really put that. And it's not something I would per se debate even with another individual because it's internal.
Yeah,
I know what I got to do.
It's
when
not
I
a
do
thing
it.
that I have to convince anybody of.
You feel
right?
me,
This has been my path, so I understand fully what you're saying.
And I've been getting fruit on it, so I know. Hey, if you water that tree and it gives fruit, then it must be a fruit tree. So I continue to do that. For MBL is a thing of as a Rasta person. Let me go there. I've always been one, and still am one, to study both on the external, which is to say books, as well as the internal, which is to say the internal tomes that are written, so to speak, within each soul, each being, and each one's connection to their source. So I've always kind of viewed I Rasta people as a whole as, oh wow, you walk over there, there's a library of sorts. Each Rasta man or Rasta woman is a walking, living library, because most ones have studied in one or several directions, as well as their ongoing spiritual cultivation of oneself. So they each one has fields of knowledge that they're very adept in.
Yeah, very, very. I appreciate that idea. That's the concept behind.
I know.
Yeah, as
I know.
Yeah, I'm glad he said that I didn't have to say that. That's somebody. That's a spiritual expression that I think goes across many hearts, regardless of your religion or your dogma.
So when for I is when you brought forward to I when you reasoned about MBL, it was for here's a place to put the vision, because I have elders too.
Yes, sir.
You dig? And my elder told me a little bit before I met you, actually, last gathering, that, and when he speaks to I don't take it as it's not, okay, I'm having this conversation with my homie type of thing. No, he lets himself go so that I can talk with God in a specific kind of way. We all do as a Rasta. We allow, the Most High to utilize the vehicle.
That's a tool.
And his reason was building up structure, specifically community-based structures and structures to build us up. Because I think a lot of us get businesses and whatnot, and these kind of things, but then that becomes very, of its nature to some extent, individualized, and it's hard to bring that back. They may have started off with a collective and a community focus, but then it gets kind of astrayed with the just in and outs and workings of making a business actually function in these kind of things. So it's always been something, on my heart and mind personally, that wouldn't it be cool, because I thought it was cool when I went to Jamaica and got to reason, go to this camp over here and reason with peoples. You know what I'm saying? Go to that library. Word. And I'm going to go over here and go to this library of peoples. Or I'm going to go over here and reason with this library over here.
Yes.
As we sitting on the side of the road behind the corn, mocking a spliff and just talk. And he shared his knowledge and wisdom that he got upon the path.
Not to cut you off, but that is the
vision.
That is the vision of MBL. True, but that is also what he is talking about for people in general, but mainly where I'm speaking to poor Black people and the ability to travel and the things that you can learn and advance yourself. If you ever have an opportunity to travel, take advantage of it, because it grows you.
For real.
You learn more. It's just like you said, this is a library of people here, and there's a library of people here. And if you study these things when you go to these different communities and you have these interactions, it grows you in one way or another. So I don't mean to cut you off. Please finish. I just thought that was a valuable point that you were sharing just in experience.
I'm quite glad you offered that, because expansion is something that we as a people, we have within us, but when we go outside of our proverbial geographical and physical comfort zones,
Yes, sir.
then we're forced basically to realize a bigger world, a reality.
And also to perceive yourself in it in a
it.
way outside that you've not seen yourself
Exactly.
in that small community.
Mm-hmm.
So very true, sir.
Because you travel from place to place, and even the things that as an individual that this one or that one may be versed and adept in again, in your community, they may be so used to you being that person that they kind of take it for granted. Then you move and you go someplace else, and somewhere where that energy wasn't per se there.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find that, oh, whoa, there's a source, and ones that are seeking and hungry for knowledge, wisdom, understanding, connection, community will find you.
Right, right. So let me ask you another question. You know, it's obvious you have a very unique spiritual perspective. And so let me, you know, most people don't know, where were you raised? Where are you from? Where is your upbringing? How is that? How did you was your mother and father there? Were you born in the upper class? Were in, you know, middle class? How does this work? How was your childhood
I think I had a really interesting upbringing because it wasn't, in some ways, just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I was a child at one point, a toddler, you know what I'm saying, a baby, and then I was a toddler, and then I was a child, and then I was a teenager, and then I was an adult, and then I'm a mature. And in that essential way is the same. In some other ways, as far as my experience as an African in America,
right?
Different in that I was born in Detroit. Let's run that creation story out real quick.
Hometown.
I was born in Detroit. There's another little link there too.
Right,
I didn't even mention that one, but there were several links like that. I was born in Detroit, and when I say born in Detroit, I mean that quite literally in the fact that I was born there. Once I was born, and my mom recovered in the hospital like they had to do in that time, she brought me back to Chicago where she had been residing with her family, mother and father and so forth. So I always look at it because it always kind of reminds me of the Yeshua story where he was born there and then he had to leave immediately almost, you know what I'm saying? So I look at these patterns and this kind of thing. And when I grew up in Chicago, as a younger person, we grew up in projects part of that time, and some lower income neighborhoods, so to speak, as ones would typify them. But I think it was due to the time and timing that I grew up, it was a lot different than the neighborhoods are now, in that Mrs. Smith or Miss Brown, if you was acting out, she would check your butt.
Yeah, community. There was a common
real
unity.
Common unity, a real common idea of no, my kids is your kids is my kids is your kids, to an extent where I'm gonna watch out because I would want somebody, basically to watch out for mine as well. So the golden rule was actually being practiced for the most part, and it often is. I think a lot of ones don't even realize. People be thinking the hood and they automatically think dangerous and all those, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the concepts that you get from social television and
the whole thing, fear-based vibes.
Yeah,
I would call it not reality-based, where it's a neighborhood, but it's a neighborhood full of people, just like any other neighborhood with families, and so not everybody's out there trying to kill somebody.
Not everybody's an alcoholic
or
a
drug or any of them things.
I fully agree.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a social concept that's been kind of forced on us through media, through television, through movies. It's the American perspective that they like the world to see of Black America. Mm-hmm. So that's what most people have as a perception, not ever having related to those people personally.
Same. And I think particularly because I grew up like on the west side, like I said, in a lower economic area, but my mom was very powerful, driven, black woman, African black woman, who got fired from her job working, and she was a single mother at the time working at the phone company, had to work slinging hash, or actually being a waitress at the IHOP, the Pancake House, for a year, while her case was in litigation with the union. Got her job back, and then 2 years later was secretary, and then about 3 years later from that, or a year or two later from that tour, she was the treasurer, and then she was the union president. So I look at that and how I came up as a young person. I remember it as even before the age of 7 or 6. My parents, my dad and my mom, were still together at that time, both being very much proponents of I knowing myself as an African. That was very clear in our household. It wasn't any type of subtlety or philosophical anything about it. It's like, this is where we're from. And a lot of that is due to, and I feel strongly, my mother and my grandmother and ones in my immediate family knowing that my great-great-grandfather was the son of a sharecropper. So before him, there was only like one or two, maybe, if that many amount. And this is time, we're talking about generations that actually lived in full-on indentured slavery. So we didn't get as indoctrinated as a family as some other families did, because we just spend 5 or 10 generations being indoctrinated into being an American in that way. So more rooted, and that's why I am the way I am. And Rastafari as a quote-unquote path is, for me, was innate. I felt strongly. I remember my mom telling me Jah's name when I was maybe 6 or 5 or something like that. Oh yeah, this is in the context of the song that was playing. Oh, this is what Jah, that's Jah, this is what they call, this is what the Jamaicans and the Rasta people call God. I was like, I remember that. So it's interesting because there's a lot of stuff that I don't remember from that time. So I think it's very poignant and noted that things that I do remember. So I came up, like that. And then as my mother moved through the ranks of the union, her pay rate, of course, also increased. So our lifestyle changed. Right. So I literally watched my mother do a legitimate, quote unquote, come up. You know what I'm saying? So, and seeing the power of that as a young person. And these kind of that and the idea that you can make a difference as an individual, even one person.
Right.
If you focus in the correct manner,
right,
you will. Not only can you make a difference, but you will make changes occur. You see, so coming from those roots, and my dad was a member of the WSO, which is the West Side Organization, which was basically the Chicago branch of the Panthers.
Okay.
So those are the ones that were, I call mom and dad. Those are my strongest influences in life. I remember I had to do book reports in the summertime. And so
your mother and your dad lived in the same house together?
Yeah, for a long time. I think till I was at least 7.
Okay. So you were still young.
I was still young, but I interacted with my father, my stepfather actually, quite frequently, after, they broke up, because that's the person that I knew and called dad, you know what I'm saying, for the longest time, and he treated me as such. So
your stepfather came at 7? Okay.
He came earlier.
Okay.
Him and my mom's union came my little sister, Nicole. And I'm 5 years older than her, so they were together. I remember they were together 5, 6, 7 years or so. You see, and I remember that. So I remember that time and time as I was older. I was, I'm thinking almost through the whole grammar school. My dad was living with us, and then they split up. And then I still, like I said, saw him frequently. We interacted frequently, so it wasn't a thing where I felt between that and having a granddad too.
So when you say dad, you were talking about your stepdad.
Correct.
Okay. And
Correct.
so the relationship with your birth father.
Mm-hmm. My birth father, interestingly enough, I met when I was about 15.
Okay. So he wasn't around until...
He was not around, but a lot, and I found out too that it was not largely due to his own will.
Yeah. I mean, no judgments there. I mean, my scenario is quite similar. Like my mom, of course, made the decision not to, allow my father to be in my life as well, in relation to problems he was going through and what she didn't want me to be exposed to. And so I don't judge or blame her, but it does affect my life and the reality that I had to experience based on her decision. And so that's something that we have to be conscious of as parents, especially women. And the idea that a mother can raise a man is kind of preposterous. Okay, and so
difficult as heck.
Yeah, there is definitely a need for the influence of a strong man in the life of any boy child that is being raised to be a boy child who is heterosexual and male. And so that's another topic for another day.
We going to
that's another topic for another day that I'm sure we will tackle here on Deep Speak with Bro.Sadiq. But you get back to you were going on with your story about how you were raised and where you were from in Chicago.
Interesting thing about my biological father that I found, though, I want to just say is that when I met him, I remember I was kind of not totally typical as a teenager for sure, because I was pretty well read and I was already interested in a lot of metaphysical and cultural things. But I remember meeting him and he had a turban on. Yes, cool. And my brethren he goes because he's used to seeing. Usually I have a turban on. I'm at home and it's the Sabbath, so this is the day that we come down, and so I don't have a turban on today because in honorance of the Sabbath day and honorance of the Lord. But it's interesting in retrospect of that meeting, because I remember kind of being like, who is this mug? What's with the turban? And I was kind of in that vibe, partially because you naturally have a little bit of anger, because where were you at, mug? And all that kind of thought and feeling naturally, especially as a teenager who's filled with hormones and emotions in the first place. Right. All right, not most of them being in alignment. That being said, so I had those kind of thoughts, but it's interesting because I also found out in that meeting that he was a poet and musically inclined as I am, artistically inclined, and those
natural
traits and traits that move through bloodlines are in my blood. They're part of me as an MC, as a poet, as a writer, as an artist, and myriad mediums and genre. I look at that, and that he also is an imam. Okay. He's a Islamic priest or teacher, as I understand it, one that can teach the Quran. And so when I look at that, and I look at myself and where I'm at in life, I'm okay. The fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. Right. And my stepfather, who I call dad, who I call my pops, is definitely that as well, because he nurtured where I think another stepfather wouldn't have understood a strange kid that goes to sit and meditate when he's like 7. Right. I don't mean strange. I mean only that in the context of how those uncultivated would perhaps perceive it.
Of course.
Because I don't feel it's strange at all. I accept it.
Yeah. I think it's a great focus at a young age, and I've had my own experience of it. We won't go there immediately, but
so he really encouraged me cultivate. He saw that spiritual mindedness and nature, and I definitely encouraged cultivate. He saw at a very early age that I was like enlightenment.
Okay.
That's the ticket. That's the purpose.
So that was a good match. That was a
I
blessed
understand that again, as we were talking about earlier. There are any accidents and the ones that we interact with. All of it is in a reason and a purpose. And when I sight up, okay, I got those gifts from that bloodline, and this one was the one that helped me cultivate those said gifts and from that blood and encourage that. So,
Okay.
and all of these things, because then that makes me into, helps to make me into the person that wants to be, quote unquote, or is, studied enough to be that one of those walking libraries.
Yeah, that is the goal.
One that goes
so
in
that's
deep
good
enough,
because that leads into the next question actually. You mentioned a lot about having certain influence culturally and spiritually in your youth, and so outside of your base initial influences, as you grew, of course, on your own path, what were some of the most significant steps that led you in the direction to know that you were Rasta versus a Muslim as your Imam father, or a Christian as some other people in our community who are influential? So yeah, that's kind of the question. I just want some of the significant spiritual standouts for you.
That's a really good question. I mean, I'm interested. I feel it's interesting that my parents, like my mom, when she birthed I forward into this structure, body, she was practicing atheist at the time. Though she named me, my birth name is not Anebana, it's Christopher Mark Murray, meaning, and she knew the meaning of the name that she was giving me, which means Christ-bearing warrior. Which is interesting, I thought, for an atheist to name their firstborn son.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a sign, at least to I, it's a sign that there are, because we can have our egos and what we want and all that kind of stuff, but there are points in space and time where the spirit intervenes in a manner where this one is this one, that one is that one, and it touches people in such a way to move the energy so that person or being is going to come forward in the way that they're supposed to come forward to do the works of the Most High. You see?
Okay.
So I look at these things and I cite them up as signs along I path of, okay, I'm showing you. I don't know if you go and look back, and I would recommend this to anybody. And we've talked about this often. I've often said this to ones that come forward to I build and reason about just spiritual matters in life. That if you were to take your life from this point in space right here and now, and go back as far as you can remember, and then watch it like you would watch a movie, look at it and really observe and contemplate and see how many different little meetings and junctures and experiences happened to make you understand some things.
I so agree. Not to cut you off, but just to add on to that point.
That was the period.
The fact of the matter is, if whoever may be watching this video, if you go back and look at some of my videos, I've talked about there's a theme to your life. And that's exactly what he's saying. If you look at your life, there's a theme, there is a storyline that runs through your life that is explaining who you are, why you are here, where you have been, and where you should be going. And this is something that you can see if you slow down, pay a little more attention, listen with a attentive heart, mind, and ear. You will see these things, and you will be able to choose where you should go forward to. It'll be an obvious, clear step. Oh, this is what's next then. But if you don't do that, which most of us choose not to, or are so preoccupied with the worldly things that we never take that time. It's just like driving a car. If you drive a car down the street, you see what you see. You look out, you see a neighborhood. If you walk down that same street, you smell the chicken cooking in the house. You hear the dog barking. You hear the music playing. You get a totally more immersed experience. And so when you slow your attention and your focus down into yourself, then you can gain these insights that he just explained.
Because when you slow down, and this is the whole trick of, I would say, the worldliness, because there's nothing the matter with the world. We live on a world, the globe. There's nothing matter, but what we really mean when we say that is worldliness. A way of looking at things instead of looking at things, how I want to say, the worldly way of looking at things is like, I gotta get it done, quick, now, instant. And that's why there's so much dysfunction.
The microwave generation.
That's why so many things we will say this until we stop, that kind of behavior and thought pattern. We will say this about things manufactured. Oh, they don't make it like they used to. That's because they used to take time and make your shoe, for example. And so it wouldn't just, after you wearing it a month or two, just your sole come off. What? I just bought those shoes. I didn't do no aerobics
already, right?
You see, because the time that it took to actually stitch a shoe sole on, all that,
and that goes to cooking a meal, right?
Cooking meals,
they say
living life. When we do these things, because when we slow down, there's another thing that occurs when we slow down, is our vibration raises as we slow down internally. The vibration of one and one raises when we do that. Thus, be still and know Jah, be still and know God, as it said. When the mind is still in the actual frequency that your higher self, your God self, is functioning at, don't ever stop functioning at. It's actually allowed to come through and move with you in the fullness, as we would say, in this world, because it's going to move through you breathing air, so it's moving through you, but in the fullness, in power and wisdom and understanding more and more and more, and connection.
So some details to how we got here, bro. Some details to how you got there. Yeah. Some of the highlights. When I was about
15 or 16, I was chosen as one of the delegates for Illinois for the World Peace Festival of Youth and Students, in which we were speaking earlier of travel and expansion. And that was one of my first expansive movements. I went to Russia.
Oh, wow.
And to Moscow at 15.
Very cool.
Didn't speak much Russian, mind you, but it was an event where there was multinational people there, so it was equipped to handle that.
Right.
Got to interact with myriad different people from all over, and I was a teenager, so you got to imagine I'm 15 and I'm in this 3 4-star hotel with heated towel racks and a little fridge, and it's pimping. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And here I am, this kid that grew up on the west side of Chicago for half his life.
Right.
And I'm in this hotel, international, good hotel, eating caviar and every other meal. I went and saw the Bolshoi Ballet, saw the Nutcracker Suite at the Bolshoi Ballet. So that being one of the experiences, I didn't find out till later, like the president and other rich people are on waiting lists to see a ballet at the Bolshoi. So it was like a big deal. I didn't realize that at the time. I was like, that's on my little brag list now, so to speak. Thank you, Jah. Thank you, Most High. But those kind of experiences, again, when I look back upon it, is a sign, again, because not everybody went across the ocean at 15. Why me? I ask myself, as a humble person, like, I'm just a biped in a body with a soul. There's other bipeds and bodies with souls. Why me? So, and part of my understanding over time was that one of the things that the Creator had to work on with was my feeling of self-worth.
Okay.
Because if you feel worthy from the get-go, you don't even ask why. You just be like, thank you. if you're smart, you say thank you. Gratitude is the attitude, as they say. So that was at 15 or so, my first primary experience. Like I said, I started meditating at 7. Then as I went to the military again at 18, I was trained as a psych tech, as they call it. So I ran groups and did therapy and one-to-ones and with patients and this kind of thing. And this was crucial training in observation and behavior and understanding behavior and understanding underpinnings of why
right
this person does this or that.
Human psychology, people
really
would
getting it.
I think that should be a prerequisite.
It's part of spirituality.
Yeah, definitely, because you be surprised at the commonality of behaviors and traits in people that you don't realize that you think is just your individual way of acting, but this is very predictable.
It's gods and goddesses.
Yeah,
in or out of
these
balance.
are very predictable.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, things that we can work on and share and advance and grow from if we were, even utilizing them half as much as we utilize, money statistics, et cetera, et cetera.
You did.
So, yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was at a pretty young age. I had that experience, and then the experience of being in the military 4 years. Mind you, I had to site out because that's kind of part of it too. I was very much immersed in hip hop culture as a b-boy and as an MC, as somebody that writes and spits rhymes. Known for that in the city, actually. So coming out of that world, and then as I was, really working on my craft as an MC, I ran into a Rasta older Rasta brethren, one of my elders, one of my, I would say, first teacher. And he was on a speech fast at the time when we met. So it was just like our eyes locking across the room type of thing. And I know this dude is my teacher. I don't know how I know that, but I do. Okay, so like accepting those kind of experiences, having them along the path is part of it too. I would say definitely being able to perceive, okay, this is a higher spiritual interaction from, okay, this is the mundane spiritual. They're all spiritual interactions, but some are definitely more mundane.
Yeah, and being conscious of that is very important. And so, I agree, and I just wanted to note that. But I think so. Like I said, this is an interview, and I think we've gotten a fair amount of information. So as those who are interested and wondering as to what brothers is bringing to the table in relation to this program with My Brother's Library Incorporated, and I don't want to go over too long, but I do want to ask: is there anything else that you wanted to add before we close this out?
Sure. I kind of even just direct to that, actually. What I feel I have to offer is my awareness of connection, my awareness of everyone being connected, whether they're aware of it or not, the ability to make certain spiritual realities and knowledges accessible to somebody that hasn't necessarily spent all kind of time studying and meditating and but all these things are in actuality accessible to the person right where they're at. So I feel like the source gave me a mind where I can make things easily accessible to a person's mind that hasn't had a whole bunch of deep spiritual study necessarily. You know what I mean? I think this is one of the greater things that I bring to the table of creation, as it were.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And bringing that forward and being able to cite up, I can gather information, because that's my head is information, knows how to gather information, correlate that information, and annotate it and show you how it correlates. My mind just naturally works that way.
Analytical.
You know what I mean? As well as being able to see how things come together.
Yeah.
So it's about that synthesis.
Right. And I think, I think that's one of the major links between me and this brother, the analytical mind, right? The attentiveness to the details of the character of people, of our own selves, and the effort to better ourselves. And so I think those are like some of the key factors that make us who we are as brothers. And so, with that being said, if there's nothing else that you'd like to add, I think we're going to wrap this up, because I think this was a pretty good interview, and I think this is a good start for the people to see who's involved with this program. It gives you a good assessment of the characters of the men involved, and if you want to get more intimate and more personal, you have that option, you'll have that right, and we will soon be providing a link for you to come and connect with us. So as you see, we are very low tech right now, and we are getting this put together, but we have brought you the information, and I hope that you share this information.
With grassroots. Not low tech.
No doubt. There you go. One other thing. This behind us is an altar. Explain this altar to the people.
This is one of our 9 altars. This is where it's like what we call an ancestor altar. What we generally have on it, that's interesting. Speaker got lighter in the room. Uh-huh. But ancestor altar, we often keep, a picture of so to speak, ones that have departed their flesh, and going forward, specifically ones that we know were wise in the life, and righteous people, and even the ones that we just thought were, because once we leave there, we're reconnected again and rejoined with our source and our creator, so we have access to a great amount of power and less limitation in the way that ones move. So our ancestors are very powerful in their ability to help clear our path and to show us and guide us as well along our spiritual cultivation. So it's about having an ancestor altar isn't about per se a religion or prayer or a prayer. It's about maintaining the lines of communication. Just like if you got a grandmom and she's alive and you don't call her, she gonna be like, baby, why you don't call me no more? Why you don't hardly call me? I love you and I ain't be able to help you out.
Respect to the DNA and the lineage of your history back to the source.
To that wisdom continually, whether they left the body or not, has been a long-standing African tradition and reality to this day in our motherland. So maintaining this altar and even having the knowledge of wanting to and why I should keep connection with our ancestors is something that I definitely treasure and try to share with ones that are open to such reality, because it's a lot of knowledge and understanding and wisdom again that we have access to as people who live in our life here in these flesh bodies, that a lot of us aren't accessing in the fullness.
And so what he is saying is directly in the line once again with what I have taught over and over and shared over and over, because I don't like to say that I'm teaching. Shared over and over is that Black people inherited in this land in America through the history of this country spiritual wealth, just like the white men inherited the land and the financial wealth. So if you utilize and access that spiritual wealth that you have access to, just as he was mentioning, I'm not the only one who believes this, obviously, who utilizes this, obviously.
What?
And so with those facts being there, he's explained it. You've heard it from me myself. Exercise your own spiritual gifts. Wake them up. Utilize them and bring them forward so that you may bring about that which is your highest self. That is the goal here. So from myself, Bro.Sadiq Ullah,
and Abba Ras Anebana Tafari.
All right, you heard it from the 2 wise men of the day. We will be back at you soon. So this is one more session with your brother, and peace, blessings, prosperity, love, and light.
Salute.